say thank you, Ashe, so my ancestors can hear me. Good manners when I'm asking them to heal me. Life is like a clusterfuck of hornets, do you feel me? But sometimes time slows down and you can see the wings beating.
Blessings, fellow weird and wild ones. My name is Goddess, aka G, aka your friendly neighborhood witch. I'm a cinephile, kinkster, brat, and queen switch. Thank you for joining me on our way back to wholeness. This is our temple, our playground, our life, and our truths. For season 3, I will be talking with the fam about sacred sex, the sensuality and healing, and practicing healthy love. This work is for the collective from me, Brenda, and Kay. And there's a lot of magic that goes on behind the scenes. Find ways to support and practice reciprocity for all the dope folks on the show at the links below. Grab your toys, your potions, and your lotions, and let's reclaim our pleasure.
Tin Tiny Talks is a global, non-traditional artist in residency based in Portland, Oregon, that focuses on the Black, Indigenous, trans, gender non-conforming, two-spirit, and queer creative diaspora. How does it work? Each year, 10 artists are selected as artists in residency both from Oregon and from across the United States and beyond. These artists will complete commissions which will be presented during the 10 Tiny Talks Festival based in Portland, Oregon. Go to cravetheater.org for more information. That's CraveTheatre.org.
Toni Jones is an affirmational musician who advocates for mental health and self-care through music. Welcome so much, Toni Jones.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So at the beginning of each episode, we just share our pronouns and the race and ethnicity in which we embody, and I can go first. So my pronouns are he, they, she, and I am Black-bodied. How about you, Toni?
I am a Black woman that goes by she and her.
Oh, dope. Shout out to the Black women. Also, Black women, all people need to go check out your stuff, but so affirming of fence. So for affirming of fence. And in this moment, where do you feel pleasure in your body, and where do you hope it is at the end of our time together?
In this moment, I feel pleasure in my skin and in my hair.
Your hair be on point.
Yes, hair be on point. Hair care, skin care, strong. You feel me? What was the other question?
And where do you hope it is at the end of our time together?
I hope it is in my chest and in my smile.
So, thank you. I am actually really giddy about this. I just got a text from my friend earlier today about you, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to interview her. So it is such an honor.
Thank you.
So to start off with, I actually found you through Spotify. And since then I've just been gobbling up your music. I listen to like almost every day, and I had taken a trip with my aunt to Colorado, and we listened to your music along the way. And my aunt is like in her mid-60s, and she just felt such nourishing energy from your music.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So I know that I would definitely be in trouble if I did not send some love from Queen Shirley to you today. But as I was saying, your music inspires people to find beauty deep within the recesses of their minds. Your words are life altering. Like, you really do ask people to dig deep. So how do we practice that sacred curiosity you talk about with ourselves and talk nice to ourselves, which is definitely a title song on your new album. Shout out to that new album. How do we talk nice to ourselves when we're doing that shadow work in our day to day?
How do you talk how do you talk nice to yourselves when you're doing the shadow work? I think it's just an element of care and comfort and gentleness that you bring to whatever you're saying. It's like, what works for me is to just kind of imagine myself as like a newborn that's like having a tantrum because it's like it's not getting what it wants, you know, and then I just kind of self-soothe or calm myself down. And that's just more of a thorough approach. It's just really kind of shifting your perspective from thinking in a shameful way about the shadows that you're experiencing. It's just like, hey, it's like accepting that this is a part of you. You know, calm down. This is okay. This is a part of the journey. This is a part of the process. They're there. You know, what would you like? You know, what would help you feel a little bit better or closer to, you know, peace and self-love? What would move you closer to that space for yourself? So I think it's just a matter of just being gentle, being kind, being compassionate to your process and where you're at. Experiencing your shadows and seeing your shadows is not something to be ashamed about. It's not something to, you know, over punish yourself for having them. It's a part of your duality. So I would definitely say just have a compassionate tone, you know, treat yourself as though you're a newborn, because it is almost like you're a newborn because you're opening your awareness to things that you may not have seen about yourself. And you have to integrate that into how you love yourself and accept yourself, you know?
Absolutely. That was so beautifully said, because I think about just how kind of, even how we raise our children, sometimes we project onto them our own shame and our own fears. And so they take that on, you know? So if we kind of, if we're doing that reparenting work of kind of undoing those false narratives, it really is like, how would you look at an infant who's just entering this world and is trying to, who doesn't know and is trying to figure out how do we be gentle and understanding? Yes, that is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one of the quotes in your songs is, I'm worthy of the life, or like, I'm worthy of the life I desire. That worthiness aspect, because the shame is going to rear its head. So when, so how do we kind of go back to that worthiness?
How do you go back to that worthiness? I will have to say, just pay attention to how nature is supporting you. Like, we all need sunlight. We all need oxygen. You know, we need trees to help us breathe fresh air. You know, pay attention to what is naturally happening. Like, your heartbeat is going without you doing your vision boards and checking off your to-do list. Like, what is happening naturally that supports your worthiness? Like, you don't have to work hard to access sunlight, if you will, you know, or air. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't have to work hard for your lungs to keep breathing. Like, and what I mean by work hard is like, you don't have to, you know, do all your affirmations. You don't have to read books and heal and do all of these things for your body to keep functioning. So it's just like, when it comes to worthiness, when you look at that, like, I'm worthy for me to just be, and I can still breathe. I'm worthy to just be, and I can still receive air. So I think it's about giving your brain that mindfulness about what is happening without my effort. You know, what do I need on a daily basis that is being provided for without me having to work hard for it. Because when you do that, you start to give your brain some content about how worthy you are for these things to be happening, but without your intent. You get a cut on your arm or your hand. You think that your hand and your arm is going to require you to go through your self-care ritual to heal? No. You know, it has its own intelligence to heal on its own without your intent and consciousness. So I think what has helped me and could possibly help others is explore through your mind what is showing up for you without your performance, without your intention, without your effort, you know, and that will hopefully nurture your understanding of your worthiness.
There was something about what you said about like the natural way our body heals itself being intelligent that really is making me think, because life is intelligent. So the process of life is an intelligent act. And so to be even just given life, you know, that we tend to take for granted sometimes is proof positive that we're worthy. You're so absolutely right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So a lot of the folks listening to this podcast are doing that spiritual work. We put in that work. So what does it look like to humble our impulse to know, which you talk about in your song Sanctuary, and just live our lives? Because sometimes we can get really lost in the sauce of constantly being on that spiritual journey.
Yeah. I like, what can you do to humble yourself? Humble the impulse to know something?
Yeah.
I would think about, okay, but I would say one of the things that I've practiced is looking back and saying, okay, when was the last time I felt this way? When was the last time I thought this way? Oh yeah, I remember it was like 2 years ago when this was when my life was falling apart in this way and I didn't know what the next move was 2 years later. Is everything okay? Yes. Did everything work out? Yeah. You know, and so look at the track record of life and how the universe has supported you throughout those times of uncertainty when you did not know everything. You know, the next move, the solution to the problem. You just trusted the process, and you can look over your life and be like, wow, I got through that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and look at life in general. Look at what your grandparents, what your parents have gone through, and still, yet you're here, you know, and still figuring it out and navigating life. So I think it's about giving yourself evidence that you can trust life, you can trust the process, because you have evidence in your past when you did not know what to do, but it all ended up working out. So it's like whatever you're going through right now, if you don't have the game plan or the step-by-step play, you can say, you know what, I've gone through worse, or you know, I will go through more things, but in the end, I don't have to know everything for it to work out, you know, because life proves that to you, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So it's like not about, what you're saying is like, it's not about really the answer, but about the tools you already have and who you already are that like kind of let you go through that journey. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, it's more so think about, okay, so if right now I'm going through a challenge or I'm in a circumstance where I literally have no clue on how I'm going to get out of this problem or how I'm going to navigate this spiritual sense of uncertainty right now. Okay, I can look back like, okay, when was the last time I felt uncertain? When was the last time I didn't know how I was going to get out of this situation or out of this relationship or heal from grieving over what, you know, losing a job or a loved one, whatever the case may be. You can look back in the past and grab some evidence of how you've gone through past situations without knowing how to get through them, but you got through them. So you can apply that in the present moment of whatever you're going through and say, I may not know the play by play, but I know based on, my history and based on life, I'm going to get through this. So I don't need to know everything. Like, I don't need to indulge into the impulse to know everything, how everything is going to work out, and making sure that I cut corners or manipulate situations to have these desired outcomes. It's like literally take it day by day, because that's what you've done in the past and things worked out for you,
Yeah.
Even if
Okay.
even if this situation didn't end up ideal, you still got through it,
Mm-hmm.
You were
Yeah.
still able to move on.
Okay. I'm just thinking about like the shenanigans I got into when I was like in college, just being like, wow, the ancestors really had my back then. I got out of some sticky situations, but also thinking just about like, now that I've come along in years, like if I could survive that now, like then, like how much more so can I not just survive, but like thrive through this? Like,
oh my goodness. I think about, there's times where I truly believe in angels, because I got myself into situations so gullible. I was so young and so green that there definitely should have been some dangerous outcomes. There definitely should have been some harm that came my way. But I literally had no, what do you call that? Discernment to think that I was in harm's way. I trusted what this person said, and I end up being in the spider web, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to, this is about to go down, and it was almost felt like it was too late, but it was literally, I was protected. So there was no harm that came my way. You know what I'm saying? But I look back and I'm like, man, God protected me. And there was my ancestors, spiritual guides, angels were protecting me and gave me a play-by-play on how to get out that situation, but it was literally because I was just gullible, and so I'm sure everybody can look back in their past and have a pinpoint situation of like, yo, I got out of that, even though I didn't know everything on what to do, I still got out of that situation with flying colors, and I'm still here. So we can apply the wisdom of what we got from the past and apply that now and know that we'll get through whatever we're going through right now.
Absolutely. And it's also just nice to know we're not alone in this. Like, it's so easy to think that, yes, you do move through this world alone per se, physically sometimes, but spiritually, like, you have so many people, angels, guides, ancestors, like there are beings out there who are really working for you. It's about being receptive. So I definitely feel you about the gullibility to being in those sticky situations. Man, I need to just go to my altar right now and just light a candle. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you, absolutely. So you did an interview, I want to say a couple of weeks ago with Ivy Simmons.
Yeah,
it was a really dope interview.
Thank you.
You prompted listeners to ask the question, who is aligned with what I want in thought partnership? And I wrote that immediately down. Like, this is gold. So can you, it really was, every time you speak, I was like, let me take some notes. But can you say more about thought partnership and how it can be a generative practice, both with ourselves and with others?
I happily do that. Thought partnership is someone who is intentional about their mindset, like in their knowledge acquisition. And they're just as intentional with that as you are. And you guys can exchange thoughts. You guys can exchange mental visions for how you want to think and how you want to process and perceive a thing. And because of that, you're able to unpack certain thoughts and ideas and concepts you have about a scenario, situation, yourself and the world, and you're able to unpack that with that other person because they're mentally, they're on the, not on the same level, but there is some alignment there because you may not be on the same levels, but because there's alignment of what you guys are mentally interested in. And the sole interest is to be a thinker, to expand your mind, you know, and to have a mindset that's always cultivating thought-provoking, you know, perceptions and processes, and you can actually engage with another on that level. So that's what I would like to say thought partnership is someone who's like, yeah, you can, you know, this is a safe space to unpack your thoughts. This is a safe space to share ideas and concepts that you're having, you know, to expand perspective and thought about a thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and can this be any kind of relationship?
Yeah, it can be any type of relationship. It could be with a relative. It can be with your spouse. It could be with someone you're dating. It could be with a guy, a girl, you know, it can even be, you know, your offspring or your sibling. It's all about, it's human to human. You know, it doesn't have to fall under a certain type of relationship status or category. It's like, does this other human being, are they interested in the way that they think? And are they invested in their mindset? And are they interested in the way that I think and, you know, exchange the way we think together, you know? So it can be with anybody. Thought partnership is like a very high value thing right now because people are not independent thinkers. I won't say people, but a lot of people are not enrolling into independent, you know, thinking, you know. So when you come across someone who is, you know, interested in thinking independently for themselves, it's a high value and you treasure that, you know.
Yes, definitely treasuring that. When you were defining it, I was thinking about like characteristics such as curiosity, and capacity, just like capacity to listen, to like set boundaries, and to communicate freely. And then also just that like that dedication to like invest in another human being because you care for them, like that investing, that dedication to invest in another human being. Like that's what kind of came up for me when you were defining thought partnerships. And so when you talk about like people, sometimes I'm a different, like a lot of the world ain't ready. A lot of the world doesn't have the capacity to do this right now. I hope that shifts. And I think there's many opportunities in the world right now for there to be a shift within people. But sadly, there are a lot of people who don't have really the capacity. They haven't been going to therapy. They haven't been examining themselves for whatever reason to really, you know, invest in a thought partnership, be open to a thought partnership because they don't even know what's in their own mind. They're scared to look.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I get it. It's like, how do you even ask for a thought partner? You know, and literally it's you ask for a thought partner, whether you want to manifest it or you notice someone in your life where you guys can talk about anything and everything. And you're like, you know what? Can we be thought partners about this project or thought partners about like things that are going on with, you know, me personally or whatever. I mean, and again, it can be something as casual as a friend, or it can be something as formal as a therapist. You know, thought partnership has it has the fluidity to, you know, to kind of go into whatever space you need it in, like whether it's professional, whether it's more casual and informal, you know. But I think it's necessary for people to unpack what's going on in their mind in a safe space.
Yes. So the second part of the question about like how can it be a generative practice, when I think about thought partnerships, is especially after what you explained, thinking of like these people being maybe not like completely open conduits, but ready to do that work with another, being ready to fully be seen, ready to see other people. That's generative energy right there. Because nothing like if something gets stuck, there's you can work with that person to get it unstuck. So it's very generative. So what have you noticed that kind of like looking like with other people, and with like yourself?
Well, I have a friend of mine where for the past 2 years, we have a call every Friday at 2:00, no matter what. And it's to really just kind of unpack our week, or whatever, is on our mind, on our hearts. And so what it's looked like for me is like it's a commitment. It's like it's so funny because we joke around and say, yo, we're really practicing marital skill sets, because no matter if we're mad at each other, we're indifferent, we don't want to do these calls anymore, we're committed to the third thing. And the third thing is the friendship. It's like no matter what we're going through individually, the third thing requires this commitment that every 2:00 on Friday we have this 1-hour call. So thought partnership has looked like that for me, in real time. But thought partnership with myself is really just being able to observe my thoughts and be able to, I guess, pick and choose what thought do I want to be stronger. What thought do I want to identify more? And I think that partnership is more so I'm committed to not allow my thoughts to run like crazy, in my life, to where, I'm creating chaos in my life by the way that I think. So I think mindfulness, meditation, feeding myself, certain mental food, like affirmations, podcasts, audiobooks, things of that nature help feed the thought that I want to be stronger in my life, which is I'm the creator of my life. So, and I'm the creator of my experiences. So if I believe that, and I want to believe that more, I have to feed myself certain mind food for that thought to be strong in my life, So that's the way thought partnership has looked for me personally with myself. But thought partnership with another is literally having somebody in your life that says, I'm just as committed as you are. I'm not going anywhere. Like, even when I want to, I'm not going anywhere, and we're going to unpack this life and live this life out together. To me, it's a commitment. It's a devotion, and ultimately it is someone that loves you, like truly loves you. Like it's not conditional,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm just taking in that last part real quick. What that's when you were talking about the thought partnership with yourself and like asking yourself what belief or thought do I want to be, the greater one or the louder one, I went back to like a week, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I was having a conversation with myself, and like those thoughts that like those negative thoughts started creeping in, and there came a point where I had like trust was on the table for me, like trust in myself that like I can believe the affirmations, the positive thoughts, the generative thoughts over the negative thoughts. Not because the negative thoughts don't have like aren't there and I'm just going to ignore them and gaslight them and brush them on the table, but because I truly believe at the core that I am trustworthy. I am, and that the positive thoughts are accurate for me, like they truly me. So like
Mm-hmm.
keep feeding myself that until it like maybe the negative thoughts are a little bit quieter. So thinking about what you said, and incorporating meditation and also healthy people in our lives, how does that, I'm not going to ask actually how, I'm going to say like, what have you kind of noticed the shifts are as you start, like from when you like first started that process and that, and setting down those practices to like now?
You know what's so interesting? It's funny as you ask that, because this morning, during meditation, I was thinking like, it's some things that are being realized on a deeper level that I always knew. It's like, but you feel like you just learned it, but it's only because you have the realization of it, of the truth of it has been realized on a deeper level. And so for me, I would say the shifts that have occurred within me have been how deep truth has gotten, like being able to realize things that you can't explain, you know. And I hope I'm making sense, but the shifts that I've identified is how deep my understanding has gotten, how vast and deep. It's like there's like this contracting that's happening that simultaneously of like the truth or the realization or even love and peace. It goes deep, but it widens. And that is what my shifts have been. So if I realize that, like I have to forgive myself to be able to forgive others. And let's say I realized that in 2014. Okay. So in 2021, that deepened tremendously and widened at the same time, to a point where if I think about it enough, the sensation of it feels like joy, or it feels like excitement, you know? And so the shifts for me has been able to realize these truths through my emotions, through my physical sensory, you know, like I just don't understand things logically. I understand them emotionally, and then I feel them in my embodiment. So that has been a major shift for me this year, to understand wisdom through emotions. Like I not only just have faith or believe that forgiveness is and gratitude is important. I feel the emotion of that. You know, I realize it on a deeper level that wisdom and understanding don't just penetrate you logically, but they can penetrate you emotionally if you allow them to. But you got to be bold enough to embrace the emotions of the life circumstances and situations you've been through to even feel the emotion of wisdom, you know? I know
Absolutely.
I said a lot, but that's been a major shift for me this year, because feelings are not just feelings. Emotions aren't just emotions. Wisdom and understanding aren't just, there's so much more to it. But the power of it all is not just to know it, but you're able to feel it, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
That's been a major shift for me. I didn't have that shift last year. I didn't have that articulation of that last year, you know?
Which I would never have guessed that based off of your lyrics. But it does. It gets richer. It
gets richer. Yes.
It gets richer. Yes.
It's like when you have a plant, your plant is the same seed that, you know, that it was when it was first seeded, but it's growing. It's getting tended to. It's been allowed to die and grow and wither and get stronger and expand. It's been repotted, you know, but it's the same plant. It's the same seed. It's the same soil, but it's being cared for, you know? And so, and you're allowing it to grow. And so I think it's the same thing when you have a realization, an understanding of a thing, when you're allowing yourself to expand and you're caring for yourself, you know, the truth that you realize in 2014 or 2009, it gets richer, you know? So if you're bold enough, you'll go through what you need to go through to continue to experience that richness.
Absolutely. I appreciate that you brought in like expansion too, because it really does expand. So I think this actually really segues in perfectly into the next question. So your new album, Me Versus Every Me. Shout out to the album. Shout out to the work you did on the album. Like,
thank you.
You have a song called Born Again As I Am.
Oh, yeah. Born Again As I Am is something.
Yes, it is. I mean, the whole album is something. You are something. But, it hits. But in it, you have a lyric, and you wrote, I am living 1,000 deaths. I am living 1,000 births. I'm still with the pause right there, because you talked about this just in your last answer, of those expansions and those bursts. So if we are looking for or are partnered, how do we practice discernment? And you talked about discernment earlier too. About how do we practice discernment on who has the capacity to do those transitions alongside us?
You know, that's a good question, because everybody who is in your life, I'm humbled by this question. I'm very humbled by this question, because I thought I knew the answer to this question, because I've asked this question to myself a lot of times. And what I realized is that everybody has a duality, right? And you can't escape that. So ultimately, it's about what can you afford? Who can you afford to have in your life? Because for so long, it was like, for a minute, it was like good vibes only. People who are high vibrational, these are the only type of people I can have in my life. But what I've experienced, even with high vibrational people, it doesn't mean that you won't ever experience their ego. It doesn't mean that you won't ever experience their shadow. It doesn't mean that you'll never be misunderstood by them. It doesn't even mean that they may believe a story about you that's completely false, right? So, and they could be in their practice. Can be conscious. They can be high vibration. I've realized that I could be somebody that misunderstands people. I can be somebody that is not always high vibrational with the people that are close to me. That's a really trippy realization to have when you've invested into being a high vibrational being, right? So for me, the answer to the question is, what does your own discernment and energy tell you about, who can I afford to have in my life right now where I'm at? Because everybody has a duality, and you may not be able to afford to have, Jessica in your life between, now and 2024. You may not be able to interact with your brother during this season in your life. You know what I'm saying? You may not be able to have certain conversations with this person right now, or you may not have been able to deal with a certain level of depth and connection 2 years ago, but you're able to do it now. So it's really about what is your truth. I could never give people a universal blueprint of stay away from people who are like this. Keep people who are like this in your life. No, because at the end of the day, everybody has this duality. It's like, who do you want in your life? And can you afford their duality right now and where you're at, you know? Because, you know, I could have somebody in my life that is toxic to another person. It's like, yeah, I can't even be around them. But that's because of where you're at. You know what I'm saying? But where I'm at right now, how I'm engaging with them is not toxic. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and I answered this question with a newfound realization of this. This is like literally a part of my 2021 lesson or class, if you will. It's like, oh, everybody, I always knew everybody had the yin and yang, but it's really not about them having more yang or less yin or whatever. It's about what can I afford right now in the season I'm in right now? Because I may not have capacity for their shadow right now, or I may have capacity for this person's shadow right now. You get what I'm saying? So ultimately, you're the answer. You are the answer to that question. You know, what can you afford right now? You know, whose duality is worth keeping in your life, you know?
You know, when you said you were humbled and that this is a question you ask yourself often, and continue to get like new answers for it evolves, my heart and belly just kind of like settled a little bit more in my body with like relief and resonance. Because you're right, it is absolutely like we are the answer, because
for sure.
You know, you can get really good about setting them boundaries. You can be really good about cutting people off.
Yeah.
But what I'm learning is each time I do that, there's these certain tower moments that happen that, that, you know, as I mature, as I continue this journey, those tower moments really aren't as necessary. And so it's like, okay, if I'm not having all these towers, who am I actually building with? And like, are these people always going to be there? And the fact is, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm going to be there. So how can I move accordingly to have capacity for the people who have capacity for me in the moment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, absolutely. There is so much richness in what you just said. Ooh, I'm going to have a hard time just like picking out some quotes. But Joyce, thank you for the honesty.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, this is fresh out the oven, you know, fresh out the oven. I didn't know any better for so long. I judged people based on their vibration or based on their level of consciousness or based on like, you know, I need to have these types of people in my life, but it be those very people that could have a shadow that bring up your shadows. You be like, what the hell? You know? And it's like at the end of the day, it's based on like what you have capacity for, you know? And because the very people that you keep out of your life could be a blessing in a certain season for you. And the very people that, you know, and vice versa. It's just one of those things where you have to be honest and be in integrity with your true bandwidth of what type of people and what type of duality they have, you know. And I'm very aware, the people in my life, I'm very aware of their duality. And I'm like, do I want to keep this? Do I have the bandwidth, you know, to hold space for their duality? I'm like, yeah, I could do this for them. I can love them through this. I don't have bandwidth for that. So I got to keep this person at this distance. You know, I engage with them. And this is something I'm learning how to do this year, really.
Yes, absolutely. It feels like there's this constant dance between like, you know, setting boundaries and being unapologetic with your time and your energy, while also like holding that space and being like, okay, I have a little bit more permeability with my boundaries with this person. They still know they're there, and I'm going to make them clear, but there's permeability in what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, and you go through stages. I'm not gonna lie. You know, when I wrote Energy Budget, it was about keeping those people over there, having these type of people in my life, you know. But the reality is that Energy Budget can evolve. You know, that's where Versus Lonely comes in. You know, it's about like, I want people in my life. I want community, but you have to have that quote unquote energy budget and that solitude in your life to where you can get more familiar with what your truth is. You know, it was only when I was able to remove certain entities and energies out of my life where I got quiet enough. I didn't have any distractions, you know, and so I got quiet enough to see what I truly needed and what I wanted in my life, you know. So it is a time. I do think it's a part of your journey to be all about boundaries and, you know, keeping people that are aligned with your current vibration and all of that. But because you need that space and time and solitude to get clearer about what is best for you in the season that you're in, you know?
Ooh, yes. And I'm so glad you brought up energy budget, because that'd be on repeat. However,
oh yeah, y'all mess with energy budget.
Energy budget is, yes. But I can see the evolution of your thought processes in each album. And it's not that, you know, the album 3 years ago has inaccuracies and now we got to erase it, because it's still true. It's just like you said, it gets richer and it expands. And so the interpretation of these truths, there's a little bit more nuance to them now. And that's so reflected in your new album. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So yes, where can we find you? Tell us more about what you're currently up to. Tell us all the goodies.
Yeah. Well, I have a website. I am ToniJones.com. And you can follow me on I am Toni Jones on Instagram. I have a Twitter as well. I am Toni Jones. I am. And then I have a YouTube channel, Toni Jones. And I have a series on there called Affirm, where it's pretty much affirmation meditations over visual art. So, I mean, I really love this series because it's just like my music. Just push play and receive. That's all you got to do. It's no rhyme or reason to it. You know, if you are invested in your relationship with yourself, in mindfulness, consciousness, spirituality, self-love, what I offer is just a push play, you know, and my music is on all streaming platforms. And I do have some launches in 2022. So stay close. One way you can stay close, is my Facebook. It's Toni Jones. I am Toni Jones. And my Facebook keeps, up with all the updates of launches and dates and appearances. So, that's one way you can stay close to the message and stay close to how I'm showing up in the world.
Thank you. And y'all, you can Google Toni Jones. Lots will come up.
Google me. You're so silly.
So thank you again for this. It is truly an honor. You be dropping some pearls every time, Toni. And as we close, where do you feel pleasure in your body, and what is your heart carrying with you into this great, big, wide world?
Where do I feel pleasure in my body? Where do I feel pleasure in my body? That's a great question. I will have to say, in my body, I will have to say it's on my body.
On your body, around your body.
On my body. You're so silly. I will be honest with you, what's bringing me the most pleasure to my experience with my body is my skin. My skin, caring for my skin, caring for my hair, that has been bringing me the most pleasure. I am working on pleasure in my body. I'm working on that by finding me a daily, weekly ritual with fitness and movement. I'm doing Zumba right now. I just started, and I start karate lessons in mid-January. So I'm just exploring movement with my body, and not in a place of discipline, but joy and pleasure. Like, what do I enjoy most when it comes to moving my body? So yeah, but I would definitely say my skin has been bringing me the most pleasure. It's so fun. Like, it's all these different ointments and different things, scrubs, things that you can use to just edify and care for your skin. I've been paying close to the things that I neglect, like, the side of my ankle, like in between my toes, like just making sure I tend to different parts of my body that we tend to neglect,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up skin, because I think I'm feeling the most pleasure in my feet. Like, my heart right now for this conversation, but my feet, I have just been loving giving my feet massages in the shower.
Yes.
And oiling them, and that anointing.
My newest thing is massaging my lower arm, like in my wrist. Like, it's crazy how much tension that can be in there, and you just don't even know it until you start rubbing it, So don't self-neglect your bodies. Like, you may not be getting touched by somebody else, but it can be,
Yeah, we can love on ourselves.
We can love on yourself, get your massages, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
That's it, y'all. That's our show. Big thank you to Cloud Stokely for providing their song Lo-Fi Beats to contemplate YT supremacy on Season 3. Your music is a whole vibe, fam. And thank you for your continued support, y'all. Keep pleasuring yourselves.
10 Tiny Talks is a global, non-traditional artist in residency based in the Northwest, focusing on the Black, Indigenous, trans, gender non-conforming, two-spirit, and queer creatives. We'd like to congratulate our 2021 recipients: Belinda Rose, A.C. Ramirez de Arellano, Kareem Jackson, Cloud Stokely, Calisto Nanan, D&D Productions, Nick Labonte, Zinnia Opio, Marla Darling, and Mixdalia de Lubel. You are the definition of excellence. Go to cravetheater.org to meet the artists.